Today I'm going to show you how to create this wire together with this representation of a strip of LEDs. I'm not sure how accurate this is, but this is just a demonstration of how to do it. And I'm going to do it within a single part. This is what's called a multi-body part. You are kind of familiar with it already, but if I just to show you, I've got a cut list here of one. That's because I haven't disconnected these. Okay, we'll get to that, but it's called a cut list in the current case because I'm in the sheet metal environment and that has cut lists instead of bodies. So this is what I've got currently set up. I'm going to backtrack. I'm going to roll back to that point. And for the body, I will just use an existing sketch. So let's edit that sketch. What I've done is I've drawn on this surface. You can see it's just a rectangle 90 by 9 with a locating dimension of 18.5. And then because I've created everything around my planes, this is centrally located. So I can just locate using this construction line. I can locate the rest of this block. So I exit this and then I extrude it. And when you extrude, to keep this into 3 separate bodies, make sure that you do not select the merge result button. So I've unclicked the merge result button and I should now have 2 bodies. There we go. There's a fold and there's boss extrude. Okay, so 2 separate bodies. But because that's located with using that sketch, it's in place already. It can't move about. And then the little flange or grommet that connects the wire, the way I've done that is I've also just created a sketch on that plane. So let's just go to that plane and have a look. So I've drawn a center line that goes through the 2 parts. If you go to this view, yeah, you can see there's that block. And then I've created a circle and then just chopped it off with 2 lines. And then from there I've extruded, but now you have to be careful that you do not have the merge result button on, because if you do, it'll actually merge everything together. Let me show you. So if I go back to this set of parts, there's just one. So to get around that, let's go back in here, untick the merge result button. To get around that, you need to combine. Right, so that's the combine feature, which you're already familiar with. So to edit that feature, I've just added the 2 together and I've selected that body and that body. So that's the light and the flange. And now I have 2 bodies. Here we go. So I've got the fold, which is my actual light, and then the combine, which is those 2 there. And then I think I've done one other thing. Yes, I would have created a hole. So that there, I've called it LED just so that it's easier so that I can see in my bodies what it's called. But it's just a cut extrude, and I've just cut a hole 3.5 millimeters down to that surface there. So that's fairly simple. That shouldn't be difficult, but this is this way of working called multi-body parts is quite common around the world, especially if you want to hand your file over to another person in another part of the world to carry on working while you sleep. This is an easier way to do it than using assemblies because there's only one file. So let's have a look at the generation of the wire, because that's the interesting bit. At the moment, I've got this sweep. Okay, so the sweep command is what we're going to use. And then I've got a 3D curve, which is not shown. So I'm going to create that curve from the beginning just to show you how it's done. And in order to do that, the best way to do it is to select the front plane and the top plane to sketch on. So I'm just showing them so it's easier to find. Let's put a sketch on the front plane. Okay, and then zoom in on this area from the flange onwards. And I could, if I wanted to, I could go to this hide show button and I could show this view temporary axis. I could click on that and that would give me all of the temporary axes to use. I've discovered that in practicing this, that's perhaps not the best way to do it, but that you are now aware of temporary axes. They exist everywhere. So what I'm going to do instead is I want a construction line from which I can create a curve, but I want it to be tangent to that construction line. And I'm going to make that construction line stretch across this body so that it's fixed in place. And it can't move, and I can't select the wrong end of it for my curve. And then for the curve, I'm going to select a style spline because it's easier to manipulate. I'm going to select this point, and then I'm not sure why that didn't work. Let's try it again. So here you click, let go, drag out to where you want to be, click. Okay, and because we're going through a fairly tight corner here, we need a few of these, and then we don't need much in between, and then at the bottom here we need maybe another tightish corner, and then maybe one out here. All right, so the two things I want to do with this, I want to be able to establish what length it is in total, but I'll do that in a moment. The other thing is I want to be able to locate this last style spline handle, that one there. I want to be able to locate it just above ground level so that it looks like the wire is on the ground. So I need some sort of line to locate it with, and it must be on the ground level. So this is where my ground level would be. I'm putting in another fixed line. There it is there. And then I'm going to select that one and this line, and I'm going to make them parallel, and that's because I want this to be a little bit above the ground level. So let's put in a dimension from there to here. Nope. Pull this above again. So just pull these out of the way. You can manipulate as much as you want. Probably need a few more, one or two more control points. Let's try that again. So I'm going to go from that line to this point. There we go. And I want that to be 1.65. So just a little bit above the ground because my wire is going to be a nice thin wire. Right. So just to check that this 3D line is not going to interfere too much, so I don't have to manipulate it later. Let's just pull this out. Looks about right. Maybe pull this one down a bit. Okay, and then there are two more things that I need to do. One is to get these two, that line that I constructed, and that other line to be, I think, tangent. Let's see, I don't know, will that do it? Yes, tangent's fine. And then lastly, just because I need another curve, I need to know what the length, not of the line, but just the length, an overall length like that is. So let's make that 580, and then we can remember that figure and use it again. Okay, so move that out of the way. Right, all good. I'm not going to fully define it. You can, in this case, you don't need to for once. And then the top plane is going to be our second sketch. And so here I can see that line there, yeah, that's my center line. I could convert it. I think I'm going to, and just make sure it is a construction line, and then use the style spline again. So this time, let's zoom in a bit, just make it wander a little bit so that it looks like the line isn't some sort of rigid line. And then obviously at the end here I can make it do whatever I want to do. So in roundabout there, and then here's where I'm going to use that 580. So go from this point, add a dimension into that point, and lock it in at 580. And that's good. Although we do want this line to be collinear with that line, right? So you can pull this out, play with it if you want to. And that's good enough. Now I've got the two lines. Now we're going to project curves. So we're going to take those two lines and we're going to make them intersect with one another, project onto one another in what's called a, what is it called now? It's a project curve, but it is sketch on sketch. Okay, so in your project curve, you've got sketch on faces or sketch on sketch. Make sure it's sketch on sketch. We just select the two lines, 1 and 2, and say yes. And then when you exit it, you've got this very neat 3D line. And then the last thing I need is some sort of profile so that I can get a swept boss. I can either put a construction plane on the end. That might be a good idea. So I can either do it this way. So I select the line and then I just select the end point of that line. And that plane will be tangent or normal to, sorry, not tangent, normal to, perpendicular to the end of that line. So that's one way. And then obviously I can then sketch on this plane and then do the sweep. The other way is to select the face from which we started, which is this one, and put a sketch on there. So I'm going to go back to this plane because just to show you how it works. So I'm actually now, you have to look carefully, but you would see in the background that the full item doesn't sit exactly end on. So as long as you select this origin point, you drag your thing out. So I'm going to make it 3.3, drag your circle out 3.3. It should be good. If it isn't connected, make sure it does connect. So make those two line up, which I might try and, there we go. So if you're having difficulty getting it to connect, just select the line and then the point, and then say make pierce. That'll make sure that this line here pierces this plane, and the center is located at that pierce point. So if I exit this sketch, I can now use the swept boss base or swept boss. I've got that circle as my sketch profile, and for my path I can choose that item there, and there we go, we have a wire. So let's just hide these, and then you can hide the curve. Right, and if you need to adjust it, let's say this is a little bit close, just go back into your sweep command, your two curves. Oh no, it's this curve command, sorry. So you just double click on one of these curves and just adjust this a little bit, and it should update immediately. Has it done it? Yes, it has. So that's how you do it. Have fun.